Hey there, welcome. We are live inside the Radiantly Alive Woman. Thank you for joining me here today. You probably recognize that I'm in a very different place. I'm in a whole different part of the country today and for the next couple weeks. So thank you for being here. It's really nice to just hang out with you guys again, as we always do on our twice a week lives inside the Radiantly Alive Woman. So before we get started, let me know that you're here. Send me a hello. Let me make sure that you can hear my sound and that the audio video is okay. If you're watching live, give me hashtag live or hello. Hey Simone, thank you for being here. And if you are watching on replay, hashtag replay. And let's talk about something really exciting first before we get into our scar, which is tubal ligation, which is a scar that many women have or maybe thinking about getting in the future. So if you don't have a tubal ligation now, listen up for this for future information. Good. I'm glad that you can hear and see all as well. So on the first weekend of August, I am hosting a free retreat, which is really exciting. I've never hosted a free retreat before. We're going to do it all inside this Facebook group, the Radiantly Alive Woman Community. And you need to register because not only are you going to be receiving your own personal guidebook, but you're also going to be in the running for winning lots of awesome prizes. And I'm going to just keep those prizes secret for the first little bit, and then I will start announcing those prizes as we get closer and closer. But I did a free masterclass, a 9-day masterclass maybe 3 months ago, and the first 30 women who registered for that got a private exclusive class where we all hung out on Zoom together for 90 minutes and we all learned about pelvic floor breathing, which is one of the breathing practices that I think all women need to do, be aware of, and practice on a daily basis. So that's what we did last time. Stay tuned for the prize announcements for this retreat, but this retreat is going to be done slightly, it's different than the masterclass. So it's over a weekend. It starts Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday, and then we have a couple bonus days. And it's these mini sessions, these 30-minute sessions, which we'll have in Pacific time, 9 a.m., 11 a.m., and 1 p.m., where we not only learn about the importance of scars, we also do a bunch of guided practices. So right in the middle of all of our sessions, all of our day retreat, we do some guided meditations, body scans, and different types of practices. So not only are you learning, but you're applying and we're doing it together. Not only are you doing it with me, but you're also doing it with a community of women, which is an amazing opportunity because as you may have realized and recognized from our masterclass, when you're together with a group of women who are like-minded and have the same curiosity, the same willingness to go through something, it's such a powerful and impactful kind of container to be a part of. So that's something really special, and I can't wait to do this for the first time. And like I said, it's the first weekend of August. So registration, actually, I'll put it up inside this chat right now. I got my laptop in front of me here. Registration happens through this link. And once you register, you are registered to earn some prizes, and also you'll get your guidebook and a lot of other really cool things. Part of this retreat is to help you understand where I'm coming from when I'm talking about scars. Because right now, a lot of people don't know about the importance of scars. I've been asking some poll questions inside this group, and we kind of get the importance and we can see the kind of connection to our physical body, but we're missing a lot of the understanding around how scars can impact our energy and our emotion. So this retreat will help get clarity around that, and it will help to bring you kind of up to speed for the opportunity to join the Enliven program. The Enliven program is an annual program that is a complete closed container. Like I said, for the reasons that just earlier, when you're with a group of women, like-minded women in this closed environment for a period of time, it's really empowering and really exciting. So once a year, you get to join this program, and I'm looking for 25 women to join that program. We need 5 women who have scars on their neck, 5 women who have scars on their chest, breast area, on the abdomen, pelvic floor, and then the low back spine area. So that's 25 women total. So if you're interested, please either just register for the annual program, the Enliven program right away, I can also set out a link for that if you're like, Kendra, what are you talking about? This sounds awesome. Let me show you. And if you're like, I am really interested, but I'm not sure if I want to take that plunge right away, come into the free retreat. Come into the free retreat and just see what this is all about. Join the fun, share in the environment of being with like-minded women. And then at the end, if you do want to join our annual program, which I would absolutely love to have you, that opportunity is there for you. Okay, so both of those links are in there for you to just explore on your own. Yeah, we got our first sign up right in this group. Okay, awesome. Thanks, Simone. This is great. So yeah, choose your Scar retreat. Come, it's free. It's going to be awesome. There's going to be a lot of really like-minded, credible women there, and you're going to hear a lot of really good stuff, including some stories from women who I've worked with who have scars on their body. Those are going to go on in our bonus days. Okay, so let's get into the actual content itself. Today, like we do twice a week, we're talking about two different scars. So today I'm talking about tubal ligation. The kind of slang word for this is getting your tubes tied, which I'm sure we've all heard before. This is, like I said, a really common surgery, something that is somewhat of a minor surgery when we're talking about it, but in my view, it's not necessarily minor surgery. The incisions themselves could be small. Usually there's two, maybe three. And so we want to think beyond just what we see, because the scars are tiny, yes, but the impact on the physical body is quite significant. And then when we're talking about the emotion and the energy, when we're talking about being a woman and our reproductive system, that's something we really need to consider. We need to be on point in understanding that, yeah, getting a tubal ligation, getting your tubes tied, ending your fertility is a big deal. And so I'm going to contextualize that and help you see that. And if you do have your tubes tied now, even though it may have been decades ago or maybe more recently, there's ways that you can work with that if there's stuck emotion around that. When you think about the idea of that surgery, if there's still kind of a raw tenderness there, how can we work with that to transform that so that we can really embody our female body? Even though we may not feel as feminine as we may have before because we're no longer able to produce children, that is not the be-all, end-all of our femininity. There's a lot more ways to experience being a woman and really showing up in our body and in our power. So let's talk about that. Yeah, Simone is into it. I'm into it. I get really excited when people want to geek out with me. So thank you for being here and just sharing and all that fun. So as we always do in these videos, we talk about three different sections. Physical considerations. We talk about this first because it's kind of the most important. It's the most grounded conversation that we can have when we're speaking really about our physical body. We can look down and look at it. We can interact with it quite easily. So it's really nice to talk about the physical considerations. They're usually, generally, the most, the easiest to see in ourselves and easiest to kind of connect those dots. The second part, which is the energetic and the emotional considerations, is oftentimes also kind of easy to get, but it can also be really abstract and kind of overwhelming. And maybe we don't quite see those connections, or maybe they need a little bit more time to like feel out in ourselves. Because this second part, the emotional and energetic considerations, is completely unique to each woman because we're all unique and different, and we each have our own set life circumstances and stuff that's happened before us and how we are now in present day. So I give you the kind of roadmap to start thinking about this differently and how you can start working with it is the third part. The third part that we always cover is the what to do. This is the good part. This is the fun part where you actually get to take actionable steps on the education that you received in this video, which in a day of information overload is really nice, where you actually get to take a step forward and you're not necessarily wishing you had more or wanting more. You actually have like a beginner step. I actually give you two steps in all these videos, because one step I think you should do with every single scar, and the second step is something I want you to do specifically for a tubal ligation. So stick around for that. Don't fast forward. Learn about all the good stuff if you're watching this on a replay. And let's get into the physical considerations first, like I said. So obviously, the incisions are in the abdomen. So we're talking about a stomach, abdomen, tummy area. Generally, they're done one through the belly button and then one in the lower abdomen or like somewhere off to the side. Surgery sites are really interesting. I've had the benefit of working in several different countries, and depending on where you live and the time, the period, however long your scar is, all the surgery sites could be different. So just keep that in mind when I'm speaking. If I'm speaking slightly off to your own experience, it could be, just a variety of those different circumstances that make it slightly different. But in general, we're talking about 2 or 3 small scars that are not huge in size, but I want to highlight how these scars can really impact the physical. So whenever we're talking about an abdomen, any scars that are going on here, we want to think about where the scar tissue is bearing itself onto. So you'll probably have heard me speak about when the scars are healing, or even when you've taken up a new exercise. Say you've been like really sedentary and you start playing tennis or you start running. The scar tissue will start potentially burying down deeper as you change your activity level. But just as the scars are healing across the board, this happens. Scars are looking for a stable, strong anchor point so that abdomen is safe and mended and healed and good to go for a variety of different movements. The abdomen is an area of incredible range and incredible function. We can do 3 different planes of motion in our abdomen area. We can do these big side bends, these big rotates, these big forward flexions, big extensions. So it needs to be sure that it's, solid and good to go for all of that, as well as all the other stuff like digestion, like going to the bathroom, like bearing down. All of these things are really, really important to consider. So when we're talking about the abdomen and like common symptoms, physical symptoms that you could be experiencing, think about anything related to digestion. Because as those scars are healing, the scar tissue is going to have to bury itself into something solid. And the only thing that's solid, guaranteed solid, not going anywhere in the body is bone. Bone is a very reliable, solid, safe bet for the body to anchor onto. And in the abdomen, there's not a lot of bone there. There's a lot of guts, there's a lot of intestine, there's a lot of soft organ. And so depending on where the scarring is, tubal ligation world, we're in like the lower abdomen, it's probably going to head down. It's probably going to head south. Ideally, it's going to go towards maybe the front of your pelvis. Is like also called the hip bones, or your pubic bone. It is less likely to like bury its way all the way through to your spine. That's a little extreme because the guts, like the digestive system, is packed in its very particular order. There's not a lot of wiggle room in our body for extra stuff, which is why scar tissue is also very important to think about. So think about all of your digestive things that are going on. It doesn't necessarily need to be just here. It could be bladder, bowel, it can be indigestion, like acid reflux. When things are out of balance somewhere in the digestive system, maybe at the bottom end or at the top end, it can be just, the issue could be all around. I want you to think like big picture here. And when we start talking about the physical, we get the opportunity to think big picture, because the blue anatomy man that I want you to Google. And Simone, if you're here still and you want to really geek out with me, you can enjoy this because I think you'll appreciate this. I want you to Google Thomas Myers Anatomy Trains Superficial Frontline. I'll put the picture in at the end of this video if you want to just check it out, but this is the way I want you to start thinking about your anatomy. How I want you to start thinking of your connective tissue, of your fascia, of how all muscle actually interacts. When we learn it in school, in whatever capacity you learned it in, you think about it in a really isolated way. You think about like biceps flex and all of these kind of compartmentalized ways, but that's actually not how we move at all. And so when you look at this blue anatomy man, maybe I'll just pull him up for fun because I know Simone's here and we like to let's just geek it out together. Thomas Myers. I want you to look at this sweeping tissue line and look at the connections that it has in the body. So I'm not just talking about the abdomen, I'm also talking about all the way to the tops of your feet, to the ends of your toenails. And this sweeping tissue actually comes into your neck. These really important muscles called your sternocleidomastoid, they're usually quite large. They attach on your collarbone all the way behind your ear. This tissue line sweeps across the back of the head, which is, again, something to think about. So when you have injury, when you have incision in your abdomen, I want you to think about your quads. I want you to think about shin splints. I want you to think about neck pain, like lots of tension in your neck, foot stuff that could be going on. This is how I am thinking when I'm working with my clients, and I want you to start thinking like that too. So you can start putting the pieces together in your body and making sense and connecting the dots. Because once you have that skill, it's a really great one to have, really good, important one to harness. All right, how do I get this in here? All right. Okay, before I get crazy and lost in this putting in picture, let's just keep going. I'll post it after. Superficial front line, Thomas Myers. That's what you want to do. I think, Simone, you've got it. Okay, so again, in the abdomen, tissue, scar tissue is bearing down something, trying to find something solid. What also happens every single time you have an incision in the abdomen you immediately have a pressure problem. So the pressure problem, awesome, Simone, I'm glad you found it. The pressure problem in the abdomen will create other types of symptoms like vulnerable low back, like backs that kind of tweak or are really sensitive to small movements. You know, people will say like, I just went down to reach my purse and my back went out. Or I just just bent down to pick up my child and my back totally, you know, hit the fan and I was in agony. This is a really common thing. And it's because of these incisions, because of these scars, that some of these things could be going on. Depends on the person and depends on the scarring. And this is absolutely true for tubal ligation. I've worked on so many tubal ligations, like dozens and dozens of them. And these are really common symptoms that women are talking about. They're also talking about a lot of tension and tightness in the hips. Any kind of bladder, bowel stuff, like I said at the beginning. But what pressure problems really do is they disturb like the natural function of all the organs in the area. So everything in the body, but particularly stuff in the torso, should have a natural pressure gradient. Like how we're breathing air in and out is because of this pressure gradient that the lungs are requiring. But also in our abdomen, we require a certain type of pressure. You'll see Olympians or any just type of athletes who's lifting really heavy, and sometimes they put on a weighted, a brace belt across their abdomen and lift, like a deadlift or any other type of Olympic, lifting technique. You'll see them wearing that because they're trying to get a certain type of pressure. And when you have an incision, I want you to think about you've lost that pressure problem, and I want you to visualize a balloon, like a party balloon, that is no longer able to keep its party balloon-like shape. It's almost as if someone has like pushed on a part of the balloon and like weakened it slightly, so you have a weakening there. That weakening in your abdomen, in that area, will create a weakening in your low back, but also disturbs all the natural kind of function of your organs, because what do we need to do daily that helps the function of our organs is breathing. So our breathing will be off when the pressure problem is there. And every time we have an abdominal surgery scar, the pressure problem is present. I talk about this in a lot of detail in my course. It's a course called Scars Matter. It's a $27 course on my website. You also get that for free if you sign up for the Enliven program, just so you know, but you can go check that out. And so these are the main things I want you to think about in the physical considerations with a tubal ligation. I want us to get beyond the thought that the incision is super small, so it might not be a big deal. It's a big deal. It really matters. And when you work those scars in a way that is very strategic and systematic, it really helps clear all that up. And it's not a long, laborious kind of concept. It's really quite simple. And I'm going to share the most important first step at the end of this video in the what to do section. Yeah, so I'm seeing Simone just talking here. Yeah, it is crazy. But the good thing about this craziness is every time we talk about this in these videos and women come on, and when you're live, it's so much more helpful because you're right here interacting. The main thing that I hear women saying across the board is they go, this makes so much sense. Like, I get this. I can resonate with this. This makes sense. I can feel this in my body, exactly what you're talking about. And that is a real joy to be here live and just kind of highlight those things for people. These aha moments and like light bulb moments are a big deal, and I'm so glad that women are having them. Yeah, it does make sense. I'm glad that you agree. Yeah, learning how it's connected is so important. To me, when you know what's going on in your body, then you have a really stable, solid platform to start actually transforming stuff. When we're really confused about where stuff is, why stuff is going on in our body, then it's really hard to start resolving it. We just feel like we're kind of in this muck, in this like challenge place where we don't really know where to start because we don't really know what's happening. And we don't really have a lot of confidence in what to do and like how we feel. So learning these things helps clarify all of that, and that's really important to me. All right, let's talk about the emotional and energetic. So this is a consideration that if you've been watching the polls that I've been asking inside the group, this is an area where we hadn't considered. But again, when we start talking about it, it's kind of like, duh, of course that is happening, and of course that makes sense. So if there's any other things you want to bring up in this section that is related to you, if you've had a tubal ligation, even if you're watching, after the fact and you want to share something, it's really helpful to help women see that they're not alone. One of the common things that women say is that they feel really alone in how they feel. And when women start talking in this community inside the Radiantly Alive Woman, and we see like, oh, I'm not the only one who feels this way, or I'm not the only one that had this, it's really empowering, and you feel very validated, and like your experience is confirmed. And that, again, is a really healing first step to go forward. So, um, yeah, that's a good question, Simone. That requires, I think, its own live. So Simone just asked, I have an IUD, does that leave scarring? This is a very good question. So I'm actually, after I get off this live video, I'm going to put it inside the announcement board. So if you're inside this group, you'll see at the top of this board, top of this Facebook group, inside the discussion, which is where we have all our conversations and posting, there's a red kind of picture here. And women have been sharing the scars that they're interested in. And we're getting all kinds of things, amazing, incredible questions and suggestions. We have 111 comments at the time of this video. So there's a lot of scars to go through, and that is a really good one. IUDs and women's health is really near and dear to my heart. So I'm going to write that in as soon as this video ends, and we'll get to that for sure, because it is a really important one to talk about. Yeah. Okay, cool. So, I want us to think first off the bat, emotional and energetic considerations. And with a tubal ligation, of course, we need to think about how we feel as women and what it feels like as a woman to kind of close that chapter or close that door. I also want to like add a layer onto that is when, as women, we feel or maybe have felt, maybe you felt this when you had the surgery, or maybe you're thinking about having it. There's a pressure that a lot of women feel. They're the ones in charge of fertility. They're the ones who have to, have the IUD inserted, or be doing the birth control or paying attention to these sorts of things. It's really on the woman's plate a lot of the time. And so there may be a pressure that is here now, or it was there before you had chosen, or before you made the choice to get the tubal ligation. So I want you to really like lean into that idea and feel into that. If there's resentment, if there's feelings of sadness or sorrow, like grieving that has not fully played out, or there's still something there, still remains, still a shoulda, woulda, or an I wish kind of feeling. That's really common for women. Maybe they felt like they had to, for whatever the circumstances, maybe they didn't really feel like they had a good grasp on their fertility and they were getting pregnant a lot, or they had to make the decision because the person that they were with didn't want to have a vasectomy, or whatever the case, all the different dynamics of relationships. What was it for you? And most importantly, how does it feel now just thinking about it? What kind of emotion does it bring up? Sorrow, resentment, anger, sadness. You could have joy. Maybe your life just got a lot easier after the tubal ligation. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a negative thing, but just knowing that those feelings are actually there when you think about them is really important. Just knowing where we're at moment to moment is a very foundational point of being really embodied and really in our female body. So let's talk about that as a concept. I'm just going to read Simone's thing because it's just so good. My IUD is the greatest thing ever. It has hormones in it and helps with period pain, so I'm actually super grateful for it. But I was slightly terrified in the beginning of the thought of having an IUD in my body. Yeah, Simone, you bring up a really good point, and I'm gonna maybe make a little note on that so when we go over it in the video, uh, that's like there's like two ends of the spectrum there because yeah, the IUD gives you a lot of freedom, gives you a lot of like less worry and panic and freaked out. But it does do, and it has hormones, which is potentially a good thing, especially if you're experiencing like pain or a very regular cycle or all of these different things. But the IUD over time can do a lot of harm to our body, and that's really important to be aware of. And it's really when you have all the information in front of you, it does this, but it also does this, the kind of pros and cons, and you feel like you have all the information that you need to make a decision. That's the most important part. So there's great things about an IUD, of course, but there's also a lot of things that that need to be spoken about and need to be considered in relation to an IUD. So you're gonna get me all all excited and ready to talk about it. So I'm gonna just pause on that because, like I said, there's so much great stuff. Okay, so then when we're talking about emotion and energy in this area, I want you to just go back into the abdomen here and like think about what this area does. It's a digestion center. So a lot of, I'm glad you're excited. A lot of, like just if we go into the energy of it, this is an area of transformation. A lot, Ayurveda and yoga, they will talk about this area as being the seat or like the energy center for transformation and like building energy, harnessing energy, cultivating energy. Even like things like ambition or motivation. This is kind of the seat or the home of where that is happening. So if there's scarring there, it could be impeding or impacting those things. And I don't just mean like transformation, like, food that you put in your mouth coming out as a bowel movement. I'm also talking about just transformation of all things. So when we're talking from a yoga or Ayurvedic perspective, the element of fire is very closely related to transformation. And I want you to think not necessarily so much about a campfire, but just for this example, to just think about it in this way. Transformation, you throw a stick or whatever into the fire and it transforms into something different. So this really is our area for that. And in an energetic kind of sense, I also want you to expand upon that and not just think about food being transformed or physical stuff being transformed. I want you to think about experiences and events. If you have poor digestion, just like flat out, like maybe you have food intolerances like gluten and dairy, and you have to be kind of really boxed in with your diet, you may also find that you struggle to transform emotional experiences, meaning you hold on to them in some way, or you still feel a lot of emotion around them. Maybe you talk about a certain experience and that feeling of like welling up and crying, that's all like coming out. This is all of these things, and allergies included, just because Simone spoke about it there. When you have a lot of scarring, you'll also find that you'll have a lot of small things like food intolerances, not really very resilient to colds. Or maybe you get hurt really easily. Like you have to really be careful about how you work out or exercise, and you have to be really careful with how you balance your energy and like your work play kind of balance. All that is really common when you have a lot of scarring, and really common when you have a scar that is really weighing down on your body, really overwhelming and straining the natural efficiency and function of your body. There's a lot of stuff that is harmoniously just going on without you knowing about it, not just in the physical, but also in the energetic. So always think about this area as a seat of transformation. So again, it's our ability to transform outer and inner experiences, what's going on inside of our body, what's going on outside there, and how we're actually bringing that in and nourishing our body and like leaving things behind or letting things get stuck or stagnant in us for a little bit too long, like our mind weighing heavy on a few different things. Yeah, that's a good connection. I agree. So that's what I want you to think about for emotion and energetic, just as a beginning point. And then what I say for all emotion and energetic considerations across the board is I want you to think about it particularly in these three phases. So these three phases are a way, like a roadmap to give you a look in on how to start looking at this in yourself. Because like I said, this one's more subtle, or it could be more abstract, or you have to kind of go for a walk with it or think about it a little bit more. The physical, super obvious, as I was saying, maybe that makes a lot more sense now. So I want you to think about these three phases of the tubal ligation as being the event. So everything that happened before the tubal ligation surgery itself, okay, how you were feeling about yourself, relationship dynamics, other children in your life, like all of these things, and most importantly, like your inner dialogue around it. Like what were you thinking, feeling, what was the vibe and the energy before you had the surgery? Again, super key that you kind of lean into that and spend some time there and pull that out and just see if it's still present. Like, see if it's still upsetting in some way or bringing you to tears or just overwhelming, or you still feel like it's present and real, like, still feel like it's living inside of you, or if it's, kind of been laid to rest already. Then the second piece is the during. The during, this is a surgery, it's an obvious one. So all the emotion, energy, feeling around the surgery itself. The surgeries are scary. There's no way about that. There's a list of things that potentially could go wrong, which the surgeons, just rightfully so, inform you about. So you always just want to think about fear. Is always there. You got to think about fear as well as the other things. A lot of people, when they're having surgery, they're, like I said, freaked out, and there could be like weird dynamics between partners, other people, other family members that's just in the moment can be a bit overwhelming, and then they don't actually get resolved. They kind of like stay hanging out in the air for a while or up until present day. Also, another common thing is hospital staff members who are taking care of you. Even if those members of staff in the hospital had the sincerest desire to take care of you and had your best interest, it may not have felt like that in the situation. And you could be, again, feeling that still present day. So you want to feel during that phase, during the event itself, which was the tubal ligation surgery. Yes. Surgery is always very scary. I sometimes, like, people, we have this weird thing, especially in the West, where we don't think surgeries are a big deal. And some people it's very likely that when you get one surgery, you start getting more surgeries, and we kind of like lose the importance and the need to acknowledge and be gentle with ourselves. I worked with a man once, I think it was 2017, and he had something like 31 surgeries. Like, he was just very cut up all over. And he was obviously so physically and emotionally not okay. And he just had such a kind of a weird relationship with his body. It was almost like he was looking at it like a car, like a mechanic. Things would go out and then you go get it fixed. But he was realizing that that was not a solution. You can't just go out and try. You're not a car, obviously. You're a human being. So we need to be considerate of surgeries. They're always scary. So think about like that as a beginning, and then what else is present for you. And then the last piece is after. Everything that happened after the surgery itself. I want you to think about the healing of the scar. So sometimes in the abdomen, there's some healing stuff that could go on. It could be hot in the summer and like it's a sweaty kind of warm area. You're wearing pants and underwear and there's like movement and friction. All of these things need to be considered as healing of the scar, but also as a woman, there could be feelings of lack of, less than, feeling like your self-confidence has gone down because of the way that your body looks now, or the healing process. Every single time you have a scar somewhere, all the muscle tissue underneath it will not be able to function to 100%. It won't go back to normal efficiency because they had to cut through 4 layers of your abdomen to get to what they wanted to, which was the fallopian tubes in this case. And the scarring on the muscle tissue, neurologically, it can't, there's this like a tanglement of cords. Like, I used to explain it like, you have a bunch of cords trying to plug into a single outlet, and you got like a power pack and all this stuff, and it's just really discombobulated. So doing the scar work helps to streamline all that communication again. It may not be that your muscles are functioning at 0%. It's actually very unlikely that that is so. But it could be that instead of at 100%, the muscle tissue is at 70 or 40 or whatever else. It kind of depends on what else is going on in your body, which is why the retreat at the top of August, Choose Your Scar, is so important, because you'll be able to figure out which one actually has the most importance. So I want you to think about all of those considerations in the after phase, your inner dialogue, how you feel about your body, other people. And this phase is quite long. It goes all the way up until the healing phase of your scar to present day. So however long that surgery is, that is the considerations I want you to think about. Things you may not have been able to do, can't go swimming anymore, or whatever it was. I want you to think about all those things and how they affect you emotionally, how they affect your energy, your mood, how you relate to others, how you live. All of these things are really important to consider. All right. Now, let's get into the what to do. The what to do, like I said, is always the same as its beginning for every single scar. So I'm going to highlight that because we can't skip this step. It's so important that you go through this process, because most people don't know how important scars are right now. And if you kind of skip over this, you may also skip over the acknowledgement that scars are important. And then if you just start going into doing scar work, especially if you're just doing it on your own, which I don't recommend. I recommend you work with someone who knows, like myself, or another type of therapist who knows how to work with scar tissue and knows how to start unpacking all of this. It's really important that you do this step, because you may catch yourself off guard, which is really common. Back in the day when I first started doing scar work with people almost 10 years ago, I wasn't very clear with this step. And so I had to refine and clarify my language, don't do scar work for 20 minutes on a Sunday, which is what people would do. It's really overwhelming to the body. It's like you're unpacking things at an accelerated pace, and this is not what it's about. Scar work is definitely not a bigger, harder, stronger, faster, sexier kind of mentality, which is kind of how we are right now in the modern world. This is about coming home to your body and reconnecting with who you are. Tubal ligation surgeries, this is extra important. It's like coming back into your feminine from viewing yourself still feminine, still beautiful, still sexy, still in your body, but not in the way that you may have felt in your 20s or 30s, or whenever you were able to, whenever you were fertile. So this is so important that you don't skip over. I know I say it every time, but I want to just be clear every time. So this 3-part practice you do for each scar. Each scar needs the same attention. You can't just do one and then just jump into another. And I don't suggest doing all your scars at once. Do it one at a time. It's not a race. You're going to do 3-part practice. The phase 1 is the relaxing into, the settling into, which involves choosing a place in your home where you're comfortable. Your bedroom, your living room, wherever you want to be that makes you feel safe and comfortable, and where you have a bit of space and time. The second thing is you're going to either lay or sit, part of the comfort, wherever your scar is. Here you can lay or sit. And I want you to make skin to skin contact, meaning you're making a hand to skin scar contact on your abdomen. And I want you to use your whole hand. I don't want you to poke and prod and push like you're a science experiment and you're analyzing yourself. This is not what we're doing. We want to be curious, of course. We want to also be open, and we want to meaningfully touch our body in a way that feels like we're building a connection in a relationship, not like we're just not touching ourselves very well, but trying to fix ourselves. This pokey proddy way is not what we want. So all of that, and then close your eyes. That is the settling into, the relaxing into phase. Then the second phase is I want you to grab as much physical information, gather as much physical content as you can. What's the temperature, hot or cold? What's the sensation? Is it dull, numb, can't feel anything? Is it hypersensitive, makes you feel nauseous, has an aversion, whatever. There's the range of stuff. So many things can happen when you contact your scar meaningfully. And then I want you to feel into places where there's tension, feeling the ropiness, the real deepening that scars will all have. Feel like you can trace and feel out that roadmap. The scar is not only where you feel, but it's also embedded into your body. And it could be going, like I said, probably south towards the bones. And it could be going very deep because it's looking for those bones. So puckering, places of pulling, places where the skin is out, where it's stuck in. All of that's fair game. Feel that out and again, you're not poking and pushing. You're just feeling, observing, meaningfully connecting and touching. Then the third part is the physical, is the energetic and the emotional. This is best done in the context that I told you about in those three phases. Feel into, rest, relax into the feeling, the dynamics at play, the energy, the whole kind of vibe of the area before the surgery, during the surgery, and after the surgery itself. You should have like three little columns if you were to journal this down and just, making sense of that. How does that feel for you? Because this is across the board, it's going to be different. Women will touch their scars and become incredibly angry, very resentful, bust out in tears, feel like they get so nauseous they may pass out. There's so many things that can happen, which is why we've set ourselves up well. And also we want to take the time to be gentle and kind in honoring and respecting our body and our timeline. We've all been through different things, especially as women. We're talking about an area that is very likely an emotional hot spot. And so you need to approach this, like I said, just with a gentleness, with a softness. So those are the 3-part practice for all scars. Now, to do the second thing that I want you to do is for tubal ligations only. There's other things. You'll probably hear me suggest this before in other different practices when we're talking about other different scars, but something that we need to reestablish when there's a pressure problem is we need to reestablish correct breathing. We need to establish breathing that is in 3 dimensions. So I was talking before about 3-dimensional movement that the torso can do. You can have a sagittal plane movement, you can have a lateral or frontal plane movement, and you can have a transverse plane or rotational like movement. I want you to feel like you're breathing in 3D. So breathing not just in the chest, not just here, not just out the sides. We all have a tendency, and you can watch yourself do this, wherever there are scars, you will not be breathing into those areas. You'll avoid them. So women who have breast scars, they'll breathe really chesty or really low. If they also have breast scars and a C-section, I guarantee they'll be breathing up here. You'll be missing the pushing and like the stimulus into the scar, because pushing stimulus into the scar is kind of in an indirect way, it's bringing up stimulus into that area. It's bringing up emotion, it's bringing up energy that we've kind of packed and locked down and haven't paid any attention to since it happened. So we need to always, with abdominal scarring, reestablish the correct pressure. Breathing in 3D means inhaling, just as an obvious point here, inhaling is coming up through the nose, down into the body. And I want you to think beyond your physiology here for a second. Think beyond like inflating the lungs. I want you to begin filling your torso like a cup of water. So imagine that from your pelvic floor to your top of your rib cage here is like an empty glass. And there's a faucet, stream of water coming in, which is your breath. I want you to imagine that you start filling low as you can, pelvic floor ideally, and spreading in all directions, meaning out to the sides, front and back, and also this way as well. Okay, so you need to start reestablishing that pressure, recreating a party balloon that is in the correct shape, and that will stimulate proper organ function. That will tone down any stress and anxiety. It will improve your sleep. It will do so many good things. It will also improve like vulnerability in the back, like chronic pain in the area, help with your bladder function. All of these things will start improving when you get proper breathing mechanics. So really simple. Inhaling is going down and in, filling like a cup of water, 3D expansion. That cup of water is obviously filling with water. So you start low, and then you're bringing it up all the way, ideally, into the top of the rib cage. So really smooth, slow breath, just as a practice. Do this again, like I said, seated, laying, really like just in a quiet environment. And then an exhale, because you filled your cup of water so full, your exhale is going to start from the chest, like up high here. It's the closest thing to your nose. So breath will start leaving here first, right? Not through your abdomen. A lot of people will start like squeezing their abs or like squeezing their pelvic floor to get breath out. That's not what we want to do. We want to get this breath out first, and then you're starting from here, and eventually the last thing to kind of come in naturally, not with a contraction, but just naturally come back into center, towards the center, is the low, low abdomen. Okay, so if I were to like put my hands here and show you the direction of breath, it's like you're inhaling here first, so it's filling, 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 filling all the way to the top, and then exhaling comes back and comes back. Do that for like 5 minutes. Doesn't need to be wildly crazy, but it's starting to rebalance the proper pressure. As you do that as a practice over time, it will become more natural, and you don't need to do it necessarily seated in a quiet and like contained environment. You can do it making tea. You can do it cooking dinner, waiting for the bus, going for a drive. As long as you have the ability to do a few things at once, you can start trying this out. So that is my suggestion for your tubal ligation scar. That will go so far if you keep up with that every day as a preliminary step. Of course, there's a lot of other things to do, like how to actually manually work the scar, different types of movement practices that you can do to reestablish proper spinal function, because the spine will not be moving well, especially if you have a back that feels tweaky and like kind of sensitive, and so on and so on. So if anyone has any questions about that, I would love to hear it. I'm just kind of getting sometimes I can't see questions on my phone, although it seems to be working really well because I can see Simone was talking. So I'm just going to refresh my page here, make sure you can see and I can see. But otherwise, I want to thank you for joining me. That was really great. We're going to do a live tomorrow again on a different scar, so stay tuned for that announcement so we can all check that out and join me. It'll be the same time. We always do the same time. It's 12 p.m. Pacific time. Thank you for joining me. It's been such a pleasure. And again, if you have any questions at any point, just pop them in here. I'm very active and we'll see them and respond as quick as I can. And do not forget to sign up for your free retreat, Choose Your Scar. I'm very excited for it and I can't wait to have you. Sounds good. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Simone, and everyone else. Thank you, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.